This video is about the true story of Mike the Headless Chicken, a chicken who survived over a year and a half without a head before he died painfully and slowly. So one day there was this farmer, feeding the cows, planting some wheat. Then one day his mum rocks up and was like, "Yo, son, I want to eat a chicken, so go kill some or something." The farmer then proceeded to brutally and violently chop the head off some random chicken, but somehow he failed, and the chicken's head was just sort of half off. The chicken in question was Mike, who still had an ear and his brainstem was still somehow all in one piece. And like any good headless chook, he ran around the place for a while, bleeding to what the farmer thought would be his inevitable death. And being too lazy to do anything about it, he just sat back and watched. The next morning, the farmer got up to check on Mike. He was like, "Oh, so Mike died? Oh well, I guess we're just gonna, eat you now." But it turned out that Mike was just sleeping. Like most headless chickens do on a Sunday arvo. The farmer then decided to keep Mike alive as a pet. He watched Mike do stuff. He could still sort of walk, and he would try to peck for food. But well, and I don't want to state the obvious here, but he didn't exactly have a mouth to do that with. And he also tried to crow, but it sounded more or less like this. And in order to keep Mike alive, the farmer would use an eyedropper to give him water and would also shove corn down his throat at regular intervals. And word of Mike's headlessness began to quickly spread around the area, and soon him and his farmer were famous. They went on tours with a sideshow company, and people paid to see the majesty that was a rotting headless chicken. He was making so much money that Mike had a manager. Yes, a human was working for this chicken. And his owner was raking it in, those big bucks, around $4,500 a month. And that's over 50,000 USD in today's dollar. In fact, Mike was such a big hit that he spurred a round of other copycat farmers, or should I say, copy chicken farmers, to go around chopping the noggin off their chickens to get some of that sweet, sweet chicken action. But all of those chickens just died. I'm not really sure what they were thinking. But unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. Mike being no exception. One day, at a motel after a successful show, the farmer realized he lost Mike's feeding eyedropper somewhere. And I'm not quite sure how to animate this next bit, so you're just gonna have to try to follow this. Basically, the farmer gave Mike some corn, but he didn't give Mike any water because of the lack of eyedropper. Do you hear that? That's the sound of a chicken choking to death. You see, without water, Mike's throat was unlubricated, and that bit of corn just got stuck there. So he just choked to death on a single kernel of corn. Yep, this chicken went around without a head for 18 months, but some unlubricated corn killed him. So the moral of the story, don't do corn, kids.